Why do we see colors? Or what is the difference of vision between a normal human being and that of a different species? Well, as a matter of fact, let me tell you that a normal human being can see more than 10,000 colors. But a different species has a number of vision more or less than that of a normal human being. In today's video, we're going to talk about colors and perception of vision for a normal human being and that of a different species. So hello everyone, my name is Anita Kais and today we're going to talk about colors. If I talk about vision, then the first term which comes into our mind is light. What is light? Light is a form of energy because of which we are able to see things around us. अगर लाइट एनर्जी नहीं होती तो हमें हमारी चारों ओर की चीजें नहीं दिखाई देती. Now, light is a type of wave. It is in the form of a wave. If I say wave, that means light has got frequency as well as wavelength. इसमें frequency भी होती है और इसकी एक wavelength भी होती है. In our universe, a wide range of waves do exist. They have been discovered. But the range of frequency or wavelength that we can see lies in a very short span, and that is between 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. We name them as visible wavelength or visible light range. If I talk about the solar system, then the only source of light energy that we have in our solar system is sun. Now suppose one of us gets a chance to move to the space, and if he or she is standing over here, then definitely he or she must be receiving light energy from sun. But tell me, what is the color of light energy that the person is receiving? No doubt the person will answer it to be white color light. But it was Sir Isaac Newton who mentioned it for the first time that white light, it is not just a one light, rather it is a combination of 7 different colors. As mentioned earlier, light energy has got frequency as well as wavelength. If it is a white light, which means it must be having a particular frequency and a particular wavelength. अगर white light है तो फिर उसमें एक ही frequency या फिर एक ही type की frequency और एक ही type की wavelength होनी चाहिए. But Sir Isaac Newton, he proved it wrong. He said if it is a white light, that means it is a combination of 7 different wavelengths or 7 different frequencies. In his experiment, he first took a very small beam, a very fine beam of sunlight or white light. If I talk about sunlight, that means this is a white light. And he allowed the light to pass through a glass prism. Now, this triangular structure is known as glass prism. Now, because of the properties of the white light as well as the property of the glass material, the light separated itself into 7 different colors. वो जो white beam of light थी, जैसे ही वो glass prism के अंदर गई, वो खुद को 7 different shades में divide कर दी. And we name this particular band as spectrum of light, and its name is Vibgyor. So, if I talk about the visible light, as I said, it lies between 400 nanometer to 700 nanometer. Here I am talking about the wavelength of the visible range. As I said, white light has got 7 different lights having varying frequency and varying wavelength. Now, these are the 7 different lights that we receive in terms of white light. First one is the violet color, that is Vibgyor, then indigo, and I comes from that, B for blue, G for green, Y for yellow, O for orange, and R for red. Now, if we move from violet towards red, then wavelength of each light will be increasing, will be in increasing order. Wavelength keeps on increasing. But if I talk about frequency, then frequency will be decreasing from violet towards red. If we move in this order from red towards violet, then a behavior, that is behavior of frequency, increases. So if we compare yellow and blue, then yellow has got wavelength of yellow light is greater than wavelength of blue light, but frequency of yellow light will be less than frequency of blue light. Similarly, if I am to compare indigo and orange, then orange will be having greater wavelength in comparison to indigo, but the frequency of indigo light will be more in comparison to that of the orange light. So the person who was there in this space, it may appear that the light he or she is receiving from sun was white, but basically he was receiving 7 wavelengths at a time. Before moving further, before understanding the major concepts of color, we must understand the concept of reflection. I'm very sure you have understood this topic in your junior classes. So what is reflection? Reflection is when a ray of light passes through a medium, is incident on a surface, then it reflects back in the same medium. It will be returning back in the same medium. And this phenomena is known as reflection of light. This is known as reflection of light. But my question is, what is more important? If we want to see something, which factor does play a good role? First one, reflection. First of all, reflection must take place, or receiving the reflected ray is important. Which factor does play a good role? First, if we want to see something, reflection is important or receiving the reflected ray is important? Well, the answer is receiving the reflected ray is more important in comparison to the concept of reflection. Let's suppose here is a bulb. I will explain the concept now with the example, with the help of this example. Here is a bulb and it is producing light energy. Light energy is traveling around it in every random direction. So these are the directions in which light energy is traveling in terms of rays. These are the light rays. And one of the light ray is this one. There is another light ray over here in this direction. Fine. We are placing an eye over here. This is the eye. Incident ray 1 and incident ray 2 strikes the surface at point A and O. This is the point of incidence over here. This point is A and the other one is O, as we can see. Now, by the concept of reflection, the reflected ray will move like this. This is your reflected ray R2 and this is the reflected ray R1, as we can see. This is the reflected ray. Now, the question is, the person over here, the eye, will be able to see A, point O, or the third important, it can see both A and O. ये जो आई है यहाँ पे, ये कौन से पॉइंट्स को देख सकता है? पॉइंट A, पॉइंट O, या फिर दोनों पॉइंट A और O को, दोनों को देख सकता है. If you understand the concept of reflection, then I'm very sure you must be able to know that the person will be able to see O, not A. Why? Because the person is receiving reflected rays coming from point O, but the reflected ray coming from point A is not received by the person. इंसान जो व्यू कर रहा है वो पॉइंट ए से कोई भी रिफ्लेक्टेड रे को रिसीव नहीं कर रहा, तो दैट इज वाई पॉइंट ए तो उसे दिखाई ही नहीं देगा. उसे कौन सा पॉइंट दिखाई देगा? पॉइंट ओ दिखाई देगा, बिकॉज इट इज रिसीविंग दोज रिफ्लेक्टेड रेज फ्रॉम पॉइंट ओ. अब इस पॉइंट को ध्यान से समझिए. रिफ्लेक्शन हैज टेकन प्लेस, नो डाउट, बट the person is unable to see point A instead of point O because he has not received any reflected ray coming from point A. So A is not visible, but point O is visible to the person. So all that we understood from the concept that रिसीविंग द रिफ्लेक्टेड रे इज मोर इंपॉर्टेंट. जब तक हम रिफ्लेक्टेड रेज को रिसीव नहीं करेंगे हमें वो पर्टिकुलर चीज दिखाई नहीं देगी. लेकिन रिफ्लेक्शन का कलर्स के साथ क्या रिलेशन है, दिस पार्ट वी विल बी अंडरस्टैंडिंग फर्दर. नाउ यहाँ पे हमारे कुछ डाउट्स क्लियर होंगे कि हाउ वी सी थिंग्स एंड हाउ वी परसीव कलर्स. In this slide, you may see the important elements I will be introducing you. First of all, we have sun. This is the source of light energy. यहाँ से light energy travel कर रही है. Next, we have over here a flower and a stem connected to it. This is the eye and this is the brain. Before moving further, let me explain you another important topic or different concept that you must be knowing. I'm just giving you a revision. If here is a surface, this is a solid surface, and here is an incident ray. एक incident ray surface eye और solid surface को hit की. Fine, ठीक है. This is the point of incidence. Now after striking the surface, the reflection will take place. Some amount of light energy will be reflected back. Now, if you receive this reflected ray, then you will be able to see this solid surface. Correct? But here another phenomena does occur. What is that? Some amount of light energy will be absorbed by the solid object. कुछ amount of light energy जो होगा वो ये solid object absorb कर लेगा. ओके और कुछ अमाउंट ऑफ लाइट रे है जो कि रिफ्लेक्ट बैक करेगा, जिसको आप अगर रिसीव करते हो देन यू विल बी एबल टू सी दैट पर्टिकुलर थिंग. नाउ फॉर एग्जांपल ये कैसे होता है, जैसे कि लेट्स सपोज देयर इज अ टेबल एंड यू हैव केप्ट दैट टेबल अंडर द सन. इन बालकनी आपने वो टेबल को रख दिया. नाउ if the table is receiving sufficient amount of light energy from the sun, then you are able to see that thing. अगर आप उस टेबल को देख सकते हो मतलब रिफ्लेक्शन इज टेकिंग प्लेस नाउ. करेक्ट. नाउ व्हाट अदर थिंग डू यू ऑब्जर्व? द टेबल will become hot. If you touch it, you feel the warmth of it. Now why? Because the table has absorbed the light energy. टेबल ने लाइट एनर्जी को एब्जॉर्ब कर दिया है और वही लाइट एनर्जी अभी हीट एनर्जी में कन्वर्ट हो गया है. लाइट एनर्जी हैज कन्वर्टेड इनटू हीट एनर्जी एंड दैट्स व्हाई यू फील हॉट, यू फील द वार्मथ. एंड दैट्स द रीजन. इफ लाइट एनर्जी इज हिटिंग द सरफेस and absorption has taken place, that's how you can conclude absorption हुआ है अभी. So moving to the experiment that we have done over here, we understood two things, that if light energy strikes a surface then reflection has taken place, and the other thing is if the surface becomes hot then we can conclude that absorption of light energy has also taken place. Now moving forward, if here is a sun, it is the source of light, that means white light is coming from it. In terms of white light, I have shown it in terms of the 7 wavelengths. Fine. Now, when the white light hits the petals of the flower, what will happen? The petals of the flower will be absorbing all the wavelengths except the yellow wavelength. If I say here is the petal of the flower, then all the 7 wavelengths will be absorbed by this. All the 6 wavelengths will be absorbed by the petal, but ये येलो वाले wavelength को absorb नहीं करेगा और as a result why yellow wavelength will be reflected back. वो reflect हो गया भाई, वो solid जो petal है वो absorb ही नहीं कर रहा है येलो वाले को. येलो वाला अंदर, येलो वाला wavelength वो अंदर जा ही नहीं सकता, तो वो क्या करेगा भाई, वो reflect कर रहा है in every random direction. Now one of the reflected wavelength will be रीचिंग आवर आई. इनमें से मतलब यहाँ पे देखिए, यहाँ पे हर रैंडम डायरेक्शन में येलो वेवलेंथ रिफ्लेक्ट बैक कर रहा है. अब उनमें से एक टुकड़ा वेवलेंथ जो है वो हमारी आंखों तक गई. ये जो पर्टिकुलर आई है, इट रिसीव्ड वन ऑफ द रिफ्लेक्टेड वेवलेंथ. नाउ आफ्टर रिसीविंग द वेवलेंथ, द आई विल बी सेंडिंग अ सिग्नल टू द ब्रेन. आई सिग्नल भेजेगा टू द ब्रेन. The brain will take time and will try to decode the signal that it has received. After some time, it will give a signal that the color of the petal or the flower is yellow. He identifies that the wavelength that the eye has received is of yellow color. And thus we conclude that the color of the flower is yellow. Same thing happens if light energy strikes the leaf. That means if this is the white light, and if the white light is receiving light energy, that is all the 7 wavelengths, then out of those 7 wavelengths, 6 wavelengths will be absorbed by the leaf. जो लीफ है वो 6 wavelengths को एब्जॉर्ब करता है एक्सेप्ट द ग्रीन वेवलेंथ. यहाँ पे ये ग्रीन वेवलेंथ को एब्जॉर्ब नहीं कर रहा है, ये ग्रीन है, ये ग्रीन वेवलेंथ है. And since the green wavelength is not being absorbed, it will reflect back in every random direction. हर डायरेक्शन में ग्रीन वेवलेंथ भागने लग जाएगा. Out of them, some amount of green wavelengths will be absorbed by the eye. कुछ ऐसे wavelengths होंगे जो कि आंखों तक जाएंगे. Now the eye will be absorbing that amount of green wavelength and will be sending signal. ये फिर से भाई अपना काम किया, वो ब्रेन को सिग्नल दिया, पूछा कि भाई I am receiving this amount of green wavelength, now tell me what is this color. Now the brain will be interpreting the same thing and it will give the indication that the leaf is made up of green color. Same thing happens whenever we see any object. For example, here is a solid sphere and here we have the white light. If the white light is coming, that means we can say that it is a combination of 7 wavelengths are being received. If out of those 7 wavelengths, let's suppose the blue wavelength has been rejected back, blue wavelength reflect back हो गई. अगर वो reflect back हो गई and if we receive any of the wavelength now, then we will perceive that this particular sphere is actually blue in color. ये अभी हमारा blue color का है. And that's how we perceive things around us. We understand the colors around us. So moving forward, this is the summary of whole process. First of all, white light coming from sun से जो भी white light आ रही है, it is made up of 7 different wavelengths. ये सारे अलग-अलग wavelength का combination है. When these wavelengths are received, जैसे ही ये wavelength receive हो गए, after some time the object will absorb some of the wavelength, वो कुछ ना कुछ wavelength को absorb करेंगे. If it is not absorbed by the object, then the wavelength will be reflected back. अभी wavelength जो होगा वो reflect back कर जाएगा. The reflected wavelength is received by our eye. यही reflected wavelength जो है वो हमारी आंखें receive करेगी and the signal will be sent to the brain. Brain को वो एक signal भेजेगी. Now the brain then decodes the impulse. Brain अभी उस impulse को decode करेगा and it will interpret the color of the object. Color of the object को वो interpret करेगा. And this is the way we see different colors. ऐसे ही हमें अलग colors दिखाई देती हैं. But the question is still कि okay, we understood white light has got 7 different combinations and we understood how reflection plays a good role in seeing colors. Okay, but how is it like हमारा brain is so sharp that it can differentiate between a yellow shade and a yellow and a orange color or a red color and a pink color? How is that possible? Let's get a deeper understanding of this part. Now, what's there inside our human eye which is responsible for such specific vision, such fine vision? Actually, that's because of rods and cones cells. ये पर्टिकुलर सेल्स होते हैं जो कि हमारी आंखों के अंदर होते हैं. नाउ व्हाट दे डू, इफ आई टॉक अबाउट रॉड सेल्स, तो दे आर हेल्पफुल इन विजिबिलिटी इन डार्कनेस. अगर अंधेरा है तो फिर यही रॉड सेल्स हमें हेल्प करते हैं. फॉर एग्जाम्पल, यू आर सिटिंग इन योर रूम एंड सडनली लाइट गोज ऑफ. यू टेक सम टाइम टू अंडरस्टैंड व्हाट इज देयर अराउंड यू. For example, you take some time to understand, okay, यहाँ पे टेबल था, यहाँ पे पेपर था, यहाँ पे पेन था, this is the pathway and everything. So, which cell is helping you? This rod cell. Rod cells do give it may happen that you will be getting a blurry vision, but yes, you are getting the idea that this is the table, this is the paper, this is this and that. So, rod cells help us in visibility, in darkness, or they help us in seeing or in brightness. According to brightness, they help us understand things around us. If I talk about cone cells, now what are these cone cells? How are they helpful? Cone cells help us in identifying different colors. For example, if I say there is a red color, there is a yellow color, there is a pink shade, cone cells are responsible for such vision. So they help us in identifying different colors. So what do they do actually? They, on receiving a particular signal or particular wavelength, these cells get activated, वो sensitive हो जाते हैं, and then they send signal to the brain. वो brain को एक signal send करेंगे, and then the brain will be interpreting the particular shade, particular color, particular circumstance. If a human being has got less number of rod cells or cone cells जितनी required है, अगर उससे कम है तो फिर they may be suffering from such and such disease like night blindness, color blindness, and so and so. Well, these rod cells and cone cells do play a good role in visibility of other human beings, other living beings. For example, if I talk about dogs and cats, these beings cannot see red color, but they are very good at blue and yellow. We can conclude that they do have less number of cone cells. But dogs and cats have a wider vision at night. They do have a very good vision at night. That means they have good number of rod cells in them. Many special living beings like bees, butterflies, fishes can see UV rays. They can see UV rays also. This is the feature because of which they can see their prey and stay safe. In fact, in case of sharks, the whole world is black and white for them. Why? Because they cannot see any color. They have maybe very less number of cone cells in them. They cannot differentiate between a red and a blue. But they have a very clear vision even underwater in comparison to human beings. That means they have a good number of rod cells in them. So today in this video, we got to talk about the white color, the very special features of frequency and wavelength, combination of different colors, and we got to know reflection, how it helps in seeing things. In fact, it helped us in understanding the color identification of a normal human being. So thank you for watching the video. We will keep trying making such interesting videos. Till then, namaskar.